Hello and welcome to this video tutorial brought to you by tutvid.com. Today we're going to take a look at creating this vector folder icon using Adobe Illustrator. You should really create your icons in Adobe Illustrator. That way they are vector. You can make them huge, you can make them tiny, and you never have to worry about any kind of resolution issues because it's vector. You're always going to be able to make it bigger or smaller as much as you need without worrying about things getting crazy and out of hand and all pixelated and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and create this exact folder you see here using Adobe Illustrator. So let's get started. We're going to go ahead. Oh, but before we start, I am using Illustrator CS4. However, you should be just fine using older versions of Illustrator. There's nothing really version specific that I can think of off the top of my head that would be just for CS4 here. So you should be good to go in virtually every version of Adobe Illustrator. So we're going to go ahead and hit File and go New. And I am creating my icon on an artboard sized 512 by 512. I'm going to hit OK. And basically, let's jump right in and get started. What I want to do is go ahead and create a new rounded rectangle. So I'm going to grab the rounded rectangle tool, and I'm just going to click once. And I want to make I want to size my rectangle, 400 pixels by 300 pixels with a corner radius of 15 pixels. Hit OK, and you can see we have our rounded rectangle here. Now we have two things on this rectangle. We have a white fill and a black stroke. We want to get rid of the black stroke and we want to convert the white fill to a black fill. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to bring my tools panel back so you can see what I'm doing. We have our stroke and our fill here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of the stroke by just hitting this little slash icon. You can also use the / key on your keyboard. That's the hotkey. And I'm going to hit X. It's going to bring my fill color to the foreground. And up here on my color panel, I'm just going to use the little eyedropper tool in here and just click on the black swatch. Alright, there we go. We filled it with black. I'm just filling it with black because we're working on getting the base shape of our folder down pat before we go and try to make it look good. So now that we've done that, we're going to grab the pen tool. Now if you don't know how to use the pen tool, I have a whole tutorial just on using the pen tool, and I'll probably create an updated version of that tutorial at some point and continue updating it through the years. But I'll kind of walk you through it here just to get us started. You're going to just click once, and then you're going to hold down the Shift key, and you're going to click about right there. And then you're going to hold down the Shift key again and click probably somewhere out here. I'm holding the Shift key. Alright. Now that we've created our first sort of corner, I'm going to hold down my Alt key on the Mac. This would be Option. And you're going to see you're going to get this. It's the Convert to Anchor Point tool. You're going to click and hold and just drag over one of the anchor points. It's going to switch to sort of this pen icon. And you just want to click and pull straight out of that. You can hold down the Shift key to make sure you're pulling straight to the right. There we go. And then click all the way down here. And just drag straight to the right as well, holding the Shift key until you get this nice S-curve, then let go. Alrighty. And then just hold the Shift key, or you don't even have to hold the Shift key, just click on the point we started with to close off your path. There we go. We've just created this nice little shape. We're going to have to do a little bit of editing to it, obviously, to make it fit down here on the top of our folder shape to make it the tab. So the first thing I want to do is just hold down my Shift key and drag to resize this guy. That looks more like what we need. Now, we do have a problem. Number one, it's not wide enough, so we're going to fix that first. All you need to do is grab the direct selection tool right here, the white arrow key, the white arrow tool, and drag out over the entire right side of your shape. You just want to make sure you grab both of those anchor points. You can see here if I zoom in. These two anchor points to the right are selected. These two to the left are not. Alright, you'll be able to tell when they're selected. It just shows up as a solid blue box instead of just sort of this empty blue box. Then I'm going to hold down my Shift key. I'm going to tap my right arrow key to the right. Alright? To shift that to the right, Alright, now that we've done that, we can set this guy right in here. And notice we have the rounded corner, so we really need to drop this down. Something like that. We'll fine-tune it. But you can see we have this really hard corner here where this meets up. So really what we need is we need this guy to slide up and really mesh like that. But the problem that we have is now we have this big open corner. But it's not really a problem. We can again just grab our direct selection tool and just click right on that corner and then just hit Shift and the down arrow key a couple times. And just pull that down and you can see now it's nice and long. I'm going to zoom in and make sure I have that lined up perfectly. Alright, just bring that right in there. Drop it down. Not quite. You could actually use the Align panel for this. And you can see here I've messed up top. That's no problem. I'm just going to use my arrow keys and just nudge back until I get a nice smooth transition. And there we go. So at this point, we've created a large tab up there for our folder. And what we need to do is we need to merge these two shapes together, because you can see we have two separate shapes. So we select both shapes first, and then we're going to go Window, and we're going to choose the Pathfinder panel. And here in the Pathfinder panel, we have an option here called Merge. And there we go. We have one solid shape. Very cool. Now that that's done, we're going to go ahead and apply a gradient to this folder shape to start making it look good. And then we're going to go ahead and apply the finishing touches to really make it look nice and make it pop. What we need is the gradient panel. I already have that open right over here. You can go Window Gradient if you don't have it open. And we're just going to fill this with this standard black to white gradient to start things off. So just click right there on the gradient thumbnail. Voila, we have filled it. Great. And we want to switch the type to a radial gradient. Okay, you can see it's this rounded gradient. I'm going to select my white anchor handle. And then over here on the color panel, we just have our black to white slider. Set that to 5%. All right, it's going to be very light gray. And then choose the black color stop and set that to 25%. It's a slightly darker gray. Alright, great. So now that we've done that, we want to go ahead and grab the gradient tool and pull this gradient out of the top right corner down to the bottom left. So I'm going to grab the gradient tool, and I'm just going to click right up there in the top right, and I'm going to pull right down to the bottom left. Just like so. Now, your gradient tool may look a little different than this. Don't worry. This is the CS4 new gradient tool. It's a little crazy, but works the same. Just pull it straight down and you will be fine. So now that we've done that, we want to go ahead and create the front of this folder. This is really just the back. You know, if you would open the folder up, this would sort of be the front of the back, if you can conceptualize what I'm saying. So all we need to do here, and notice here in our layer we just have one path. We can even double click this and just call this back of folder. Alright, I'm going to copy this. So I'm going to select Command or Control C, and then I just want to paste it right in front. So we can go Edit, Paste in front. Note the hotkey, Control F. On the Mac that would be Command F. Very useful hotkey here in Adobe Illustrator. Paste in front, and we now have two back of folders. So I'm going to double click this back of folder on top, and I'm going to name it front of folder. And all we need to do here with this guy is go Object, Transform, Reflect, and we're going to reflect along the vertical axis. That's essentially going to flip it horizontal, as you see here. And I'm going to hit OK. Now that we've done that, we're just going to squish it down a little bit. Pull them down here, maybe just a touch more. Not quite that much. There we go, just like that. It's perfect. So now we have back of folder, front of folder. Great. Now that we've done that, I'm going to select both shapes, and we're just going to throw a simple stroke on them, just a very light gray stroke and very, very small. So I'm going to select the stroke over here in my Tools panel, and I'm going to start with, let's say, 15%. Up here in the Color panel, you can just punch in, make sure you have your stroke selected, and punch in 15%. Hit Tab, and we now have the stroke. Problem is the stroke's a bit too big. It really kind of looks soft and almost pillowy. I don't even know how to describe it. It just doesn't look very sharp. So we're going to set the weight to 0.25 points, a quarter point, in the stroke panel. Again, stroke panel can be accessed, Window, Stroke. Now that we've done that, we've got a nice sharp, barely noticeable border, but it's just enough to just really set our folder apart here. All right, so now that we've done that, we need to create some depth, the illusion of depth between the front and back of our folder. We're going to do that by applying a drop shadow to the front of our folder. This is very easy. We're going to go Effect, Stylize, Drop Shadow. And I actually have my settings right here because I just pre-ran this tutorial before I did it. If I preview, you can see I get this nice little shadow here at the top. You want to set your mode to multiply, drop your opacity to 20%, reduce the X offset to 0, really knock down the Y offset to -2, and then just blur 5 pixels, that is. Hit OK, and we have our drop shadow. Problem is, there's a little bit of the drop shadow leaking out of the bottom and the edges. If you don't mind it, you can leave it there. I'm going to be a little picky here, and I'm going to show you how to fix that. We're just going to fix it really, really quickly here with a quick mask. All you need to do is copy the shape. So we're going to Command or Control C, copy, and we're going to paste it into a mask, basically. So we've copied it. We're going to go to the Transparency panel, and you can see, this is very important, make sure you only have front of folder selected. We don't want to mask the back of folder, just front of folder. So in the Layers panel, actually click that little circle there next to front of folder. And here in the Transparency panel, double-click to the right of that thumbnail. It's going to create a second thumbnail. That's your mask. Solid black makes everything go away. That's why our front of folder has disappeared. So we're going to paste in that shape we copied. Command or Control F to paste it right there in front, which also pastes in place. Again, very, very useful. See that? There we go. Now we have a couple problems. Number one, we need this to be solid white. Just watch here in the mask thumbnail. Ignore what you see out here for now because we're editing the mask, not the colored shape object. All right, so number one, we're going to kill the stroke, which you're not going to really see any difference. Then we're going to go to the fill, and up here in the color panel, I'm just going to click on the little white swatch. All right. Again, not much of a change, but there was a change. And you can see here we have made our mask solid white. So now it's going to show everything behind it. Great. The problem is, yeah, we've gotten rid of the drop shadow to the sides and the bottom, but now it's going on the top too. We can fix that by just grabbing the center anchor handle point here and just pull it straight up. There we go. Shadow is back. Select the thumbnail to the left, which is going to get us back to our editing mode where we can edit our layers and we're not just editing the mask. You can see there's that dashed line underneath the front of folder layer name there. That just means we have an opacity mask on that layer. That's great because that means we have not applied it to everything else. So that's exactly what we want. Now that we've done that, we're going to select this shape and copy it. So we have it selected, so we're just going to copy and paste right in front. Command or Control C, Command or Control F, paste in front. You can see front of folder. And I'm going to name this folder inset. Great. We need to do two things. We need to get rid of the drop shadow and we need to get rid of the mask. Both pretty easy to do. We're going to start with the mask. What you need to do is grab the transparency panel and there's this little flyout menu here. Just select that and choose release opacity mask. You could just go to disable opacity mask, but I want to get rid of it altogether. So release the opacity mask and you're going to see it's going to actually release that whole shape and just have it sitting there. Here in the main editing mode, you can see there's this layer that just showed up front of folder, which is really that mask. So we can just select that white shape, make sure you deselect everything first, and then select the white shape and just delete it. All right. Now here's our folder, no mask, but we still have that drop shadow. So this is going to be easy to get rid of. Go to the appearance panel, again, window appearance, and select the drop shadow, and then just select the garbage can to can it. And bam, we've gotten rid of the drop shadow. We're left with just our shape with gradient. Great. Now that we have that, go Object Path, Offset Path, and we want to offset this path -10. I'm going to hit Preview, and you can see that offsetting 10 pixels is going to push it outward 10 pixels. So going -10, well, make sure I do -10, should push it in 10, just like that. Great. Now that we've done that, hit OK. And really simple thing, all we have left to do is we're just going to brighten this gradient up a bit. So I'm going to select my light anchor or color stop here, my gradient panel. You can see we have our inset selected. It's the only shape we have selected. And I'm going to make this about 2%. So really, really close to white. You know, maybe that's even a little too close. Maybe I'll leave it at 5, and I'll just brighten up the darker gray. I'll bring this to somewhere around, you know, maybe 16 or 17. I'm going to go to 17. No, you know what? I'm going to drop it even lower. I'm going to go 13 to really lighten things up. So there we go. We have the inset of our folder nicely inset there in the front of the folder. So 3 little things we just want to do to finish this folder off. You could actually take it and use it now, but I'm going to show you how to add a quick shadow and a shine to it to add a little bit of depth. And then you would need to just basically drag in your icon artwork that would, you know, if you're creating a series of folders and saying this is the folder for PSDs, or this is the folder for, you know, Acrobat files, or this is the folder for .ai files or SWFs or whatever, you would be dragging your icon here onto the face of the folder. So what we want to do, well, we're going to get started with the shadow and shine, and then I'll just show you, we'll place some text, which will basically act like our icon there on the front, and we'll just, you know, mask it off. So we're going to grab the rounded rectangle tool yet again, and remember before when we created the base shape for our folder, we set the corner radius to 15 pixels. We're going to leave it at that. That's fine for now, but a couple things we want to do. We want to set the fill to black. So here, fill is what's on top in my tools panel. So I'm going to choose black. Great. We actually, you can see we're editing the gradient. So all you need to do is hop back to the tools panel, and you can see we got the center icon down here on the bottom selected. Just choose the one to the left. That's going to give us a solid black. All right. Next, we need to just select the stroke there. And we can delete that by just selecting the slash button. Or again, you can use your /, which is the hotkey. And we're going to go ahead and draw out a nice little pill shape down here on the bottom, or at the base of this folder, like so. You can see, new layer. We're doing good. We want to come up here to Effect and go Blur, Gaussian Blur. And we want to blur this probably 10 or 15 pixels. I'm going to go for about 12. I'm going to hit OK. You can see we've got a nice fine blur down there at the bottom. And now what we need to do is mask this to the inset of the folder. So this is going to be pretty easy. We're just going to select the inset, Command or Control C, Command or Control F to paste it in front, and that's pasting it in front of that path, but not all the way in the front. So we actually want to drag this guy up above here in the Layers panel, drag it up above our little black line. Actually, let me show you a better way to do this, a way that maybe will make a little more sense for you. I don't know how well you can see my Layers panel. If you go Object, Arrange, and just say Bring to Front, note the hotkey, Shift, Control, right square bracket. And that's going to bring it all the way to the front. It's now kind of covering up our shadow. Great. So just select this and then hold down the Shift key and select our shadow. Alrighty, just like so. And go Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Okay, and you can see that our shadow has been clipped to that center area. This is another way to create a mask here in Illustrator. You can see we have our clipping mask and our path. If I select our path here, I can just drop the opacity. Let's try about 15%, see what that looks like. Not quite enough, I don't think. Let's push it up to about 17, 18%. There we go, very cool. So we've got a nice little shadow at the base of our folder. Next, we're going to add a shine. This is pretty typical for a shine, just a solid white ellipse. It's actually going to be black here, but we're going to convert it to white. Up here in the color panel, again, it can be very tricky when working with colors in Illustrator. You have to make sure that you're either working with the fill or the stroke color. You can see the stroke is in front, so if I select white, it's going to just place a white stroke around this black ellipse. So make sure you actually click on that black fill swatch and then just drag the slider all the way to the left. It's going to fill it with white. Perfect. And again, we still have that inset copied, so we can just paste in front, Command or Control F. And you can see here, it's going to paste right in front. And we're going to select both shapes, circle and our inset and object, clipping mask, make. There we go. We've masked our shine. And I just want to reduce the opacity of the shine to something like 60, maybe even a little less than that. Let's try 40. There we go. So we've got a nice subtle shine. Great. Now at this point, we're ready to go ahead and throw an icon in here. So what I'm going to do is grab the text tool, and I'm going to set my fill color to black, and I'm going to just draw the letter T, or write the letter T up here, capital T, just like so. And I'm going to make it much larger. I'm holding the Shift and Alt keys. That'd be Shift and Option on the Mac. And I'm going to go Window, and I'm moving off screen, but you want to come down to Type, and that's a flyout menu, and then you want to choose Character, and your character panel should pop up. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to go really, really basic, and we're just going to say, you know what, I'm going to type it in. Times New Roman is the font we're going to use. Great. And we're going to set it to bold. Why not? There we go. So we got a nice thick T here, and we can junk the character panel. And I'm going to drag this down to here, and I'm going to rotate it holding Shift. I'm just going to rotate it right to a perfect 45. Maybe make it a little larger. Oops. Make sure you only select the T. Make it a little larger. There we go. Very cool. And I'm holding my Alt key, and I'm just dragging out of the T, and that duplicates it. All right. We're going to rotate this guy around, holding Shift again, so we get a nice perfect shape. And hold Shift and Alt to downsize. That's a little bit constrained proportions, all that good stuff. There we go. And I'm actually going to blur this letter T here, so I'm going to go Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And we don't want to quite do 12. We're going to do something like 5, maybe 5. Yeah, 5's good. And now that we've done that, again, hit Command or Control F to paste that shape back in front. And now that we've done that, we're going to select both of these letter T's. Actually, you know what? Don't paste that shape in front yet. Just hit Command or Control Z to undo that. Select both of these letter T's, and what we want to do is group them. So select them both and just hit Command or Control G. Bam. Both in a group. Now deselect and hit Command or Control F. It's going to paste that inset shape, excuse me, right back there. Hold down the Shift key, select the letter T. Both of them are now going to be selected. And we're going to go Object, Clipping Mask, Make. Alright, so the letter T's are nice and sawed off, if you will. And we're going to reduce the opacity to something like 60%. And there we go. Now, reducing the opacity to something like 60%, what that does is it almost allows the shadow down there at the bottom to show through the T, and it makes it almost look like the T is bending down into the corner of our folder. So it really adds a nice touch to your folder. So there you have it. You have created a fully vectorized folder icon using Adobe Illustrator. Very basic techniques, very simple to do, but that's how you do it. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you learned a thing or two. please go check out the site. That's www.tutbid.com. Thanks for watching.